we have addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. And addition is when you put two numbers together, you count them all together. Subtraction is when you take away things. Multiplication is when you add groups of things. And division is when you break the groups up, so you divide things. This is a square. It's divided up into 4 parts. 1, 2, 3, 4. So if we count them, we say 1, 2, 3, 4. If we subtract them, we say 4 rather, minus 2, and we get rid of 2, and so we have 2 left over. Multiplication is when we say 2 sets of 2 equals 4. And division is when we start out with 4 and we divide it by 2. 2 divided by 4 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4, and this is the long division form right here. We call it the stage in my classroom because we set a little stage up and then we put the numbers where they belong. And I'm going to explain that right now. So we're going to do some long division. That's just a simple way of explaining the difference between multiplication and division. But I have here a short little division problem, a long division problem, because it has more than one digit in this thing called the dividend. As you can see, there's names for all the different numbers in a division problem. And the big number here underneath the stage is called the dividend. This here is called the divisor. And the quotient is going to be our answer, and it's going to go up here in the top. And really what this means is you're trying to figure out how many groups of 4 can be contained in 800. Right? How many groups of 4 are in 800? And this is kind of a friendly number. It's an easy one because you're familiar with these numbers and you know that there's a relationship between 4 and 8. You know that right away just by looking at it. That makes it a little friendlier. And there's zeros in it, which makes it even more friendly for such a big number. So you want to know how many groups of 4 you can get into 800. And we know something about that. So you can start thinking about this number as if these 2 zeros weren't there. You know how many groups of 4 are in 8 already. How many groups of 4 are in 8? Well, there's a couple ways you could think about it. You could just think of 4 plus 4 is 8, or 4 times 2 is 8, to figure this out, and then just put a 2 up there. And, and that works, and especially because it's right above that 8. So it means something else, because this is the hundreds column. So that just really means you have to put these beautiful placeholders here that are saving us a lot of problems. I think you could get 200 groups of 4 into 800. And you do that like this. You say 200 times 4. Or if the zeros weren't there, you'd say 2 times 4. 2 times 4 is 8, of course. But you have to put these placeholders there, these zeros, to make that make sense. Since you have nothing left over when you subtract, because this is the next thing you have to do, subtract, this becomes just 0. Of course, you could put zeros all the way over here because it doesn't make any difference. But the real answer here, there's no remainder. That's what we call a remainder in division. We've done some of this in the classroom, so I know you know some of this. So the answer, or the quotient in this problem, is 200, because there are 200 groups of 4 in 800. If you had $800 and 4 people and you wanted to divide them evenly, you would give everybody $200. Yeah, that's how that works. If you have 800 hamburgers and you have 4 people, you could give each one of them 200 hamburgers. Is that disgusting or what? Well, the first couple will be pretty good. And if you could freeze them, it might be all right. But, there's real world problems where you would divide 800 into 4. And this is really weird because when you write this, you're writing this 800 divided by 4 and you're saying it the right way. But when you put it in here, you think, 4 divided by 800. That's a totally different problem. So you have to remember that this switches around when you do the stage, right? This is the dividend, and that's the dividend. This is the divisor, and that's the divisor. So when you're thinking about this, that's one thing you have to remember when you're setting up a problem, doing a word problem. Okay? So I'm going to pause there. This will be part 1. Okay, now I've written out a different division problem here. This is 932 divided by 4. The number is not such a friendly number anymore, but let's wait and see how well this works out for us. So we have 932. Remember, this is the dividend. I'm just going to write dividend right here. Dividend. And this is the divisor. Write it up here. This looks just like what happens in our classroom, right? Divisor. And then we're going to end up with a quotient. We don't know what this is yet. We don't know what our quotient is. Divisor. And quotient. So remember how we had to flip this. This is 932 divided by 4. So we have to put that in the stage this way. 932 divided by 4. How many groups of 4 are in 932? Or what times 4 equals 932? That's another way of thinking about it. We don't need this line so long. We want just this to be easy. Now, this is where long division comes in handy because it's not an easy number. There's no zeros in there, so we have to start thinking about what relationship 4 has to 932. That's a little bit harder to think about than 4, and 800. But we're going to do it. We're going to wonder how many 4s go into this first number. We know that the answer to that question. But it's a little bit different because we're going to have something left over. But let's try it. Let's try doing the same thing we did with the other problem. And we put 2 here. So 2 times 4 in this column actually means 200. 4 times 200 but we're not going to put the zeros there because we're going to have some other numbers to put there, and I'll show you why in just a minute. So 2 times 4 is 8. And that, of course, is 800. So we're going to leave that like that. Now we have to do some subtraction here so that we know what else to put there, okay? So we're going to say, take 0 from 2, and that leaves us 2. And we want to take 0 from 3, and that leaves us 3. And we want to take 8 from 9, and that leaves us with 132. So now we have to know how many 4s can go into 132, and we have to do it the same way. So we have to look at these two numbers. Since this number is already taken up, we have to look at these two numbers. How many 4s go into 13? I want to know about how many 4s go into 13 because I know that 4 times 3 is 12. And the question I have to ask myself is what number times 4 is going to be as close to this number as I can without going over. Oh, this was say over. So what do I think? 4 times what comes close to 13? 4 times 3 is 12. So I think I'm going to use that one. It's 3. And 3 times 4 is 12. So I'm going to put that there. And that would be 120. Okay. Now let's look again now. What else do I have? Let's see. It's 0 from 2. It's 2. 2 from 3. It's 1. And this would be 0. So I have 12. Uh-oh. What times 4 is 12? Well, we already know because 3 times 4 is 12. We did it here. But now it's going to be in this ones column. It's going to be an actual 12. No zeros. So 3 times 4 is 12. And that zeros us out, so now that we don't have a remainder, we have a remainder of 0 or no remainder at all. We don't have to write it down if we don't have one. So that's interesting. One of the ways to check, the only real way I know how to check one of these things is by doing this. You take this number, your answer, and multiply it by this number. Let's see if it works. 4 times 233. 4 times 3 is 12. I put down the 2. Oh, you can hardly see. Put down the 2 and carry the 1. 4 times 3 is 12 plus 1 is 13. And carry the 1. 4 times 2 is 8 plus 1 is 9. Look at that. That means that I did all this correctly. That's not always the case, by the way. I sometimes do mess up. And there are more steps. The longer this number, the more steps will be in your long division. If it was 932,375, you would have a lot more long division down here. But anyway, that's one problem and one way of doing it. And I'll kind of drum up some more. I'll send you some. Oh, let me just show you some here that you can write down for yourself on the next page. So here are some problems for you to do. You want to try to find out how many groups of 9 are in 360. What is 828 divided by 6? What times 3 equals 363? And, all the rest. Some of these numbers have numbers that relate to each other real easily, like I believe this one does. I think you could almost figure that out right at the top of at the beginning. And if not, we're going to save this and we're going to get together and do it together the next time we meet. Okay? Thank you very much and have a pleasant weekend. Well, maybe you already did.